One of the first sentences in the Wikipedia article for... Something's not right. Okay, much better. One of the first sentences in the Wikipedia article for the series calls it a humorous, hyperkinetic science fiction comic. And honestly, that's a dead ringer for a description. My name is Nate, and what the hell was that? I'm really a fan of Rob Schrab. Everything that I've seen that he's been involved with, I tend to really enjoy, and I was super thrilled whenever he'd appear on the Harmontown podcast. So given that, and that I really enjoy comics, I can't believe I didn't check out Scud sooner. I had a blast reading this, and I really want to try to spread the good word about Scud. So before I get into the whole shebang, I'd like to say that you'll probably have a lot more fun reading the comic than you will hearing me explain the comic. So I urge you to go get it. You can probably pick up the whole collection at your local comic book shop. That's what I did, and I promise you it'll be worth it. But if you just want to watch this video, that doesn't mean that you can't later on decide to read the comic despite knowing what happens. So either way, thanks for watching, and be sure to support the book. I'll be doing the videos in groups of 4 issues, like the collections. So this one will be for the collection titled Heavy 3PO. There are 4 collections that have issues 1 through 20, and then as far as I know, the only collection with the last 4 issues is the whole shebang. So I really recommend getting that. Anyway, let's do it, my friends. Issue 1, The Kid with the Broken Halo. Before we even get into it, we're off to a great start. On the title page is a list of characters that are in the issue, with the suggested voice talent, which I think is basically a suggestion of actors' voices to imagine in your head when reading certain lines, which I think is hilarious and super fun, and I've never seen that before. Which also, I gotta say, great choices here. John Malkovich alone is great for Scud, since he has this not quite emotionless, but dry and kind of robotic speaking voice.
You know, I'm sure I probably had some compliments.
Anyway, the issue actually starts with an employee telling his boss that there isn't enough money to take care of the monster that's been eating the staff. But his boss, Mr. Spider God, insists that if the problem isn't solved, and cheaply, he'll be next. The employee then goes to a vending machine labeled Scud, where a robot comes out and gets the detail for its assignment. Scud heads into the mannequin factory that the man works at and finds one of the victims. The monster approaches and Scud shoots it dead. Or so he thinks, as the monster attacks. Scud fires on it again, but gets blinded by ink. After clearing his sight, the monster is gone, so he starts searching once more. He discovers a nest of eggs, and destroys it as the monster approaches. The monster grabs him, but Scud is able to escape the grip, and the monster tries to flee. Scud continues to search, and is ambushed once again by the monster. They trade blows as he gets blinded again, and the monster runs off. Scud finds a bathroom to clean off the ink and catches a glimpse in the mirror of the warning on his body, indicating that units of his kind will self-destruct after terminating its target. At the realization of this, Scud tries to abandon the mission. While escaping, the monster attacks him again. Scud shoots off all of its limbs. He then calls 911. At the hospital, the monster is held in stable condition, but the state only provides life support for 1 month, so he'll need to start paying after that. The issue ends with Scud ready to start looking for a way to make money. Number 2, On the Right Track. Once again, we have a great suggested cast featuring Jesus Christ as himself. Speaking of, we have Scud watching a commercial featuring Jesus, as a gun says that vengeance no longer belongs to the Lord, thanks to Scud the Disposable Assassin, conveniently available in vending machines. Scud sits in an airport watching the commercial, remarking how stupid it is. We then get a flashback/recap of the end of last issue, where Scud is ready to do whatever to pay that bill and keep that monster and himself alive. We learn that Scud is trying to pick up assassination contracts, and since it didn't come from his initial order, it seems to be fair game. Scud is approached by a man who leads him into the bathroom. The man tries to hire Scud, and they haggle on prices until the man notes that it doesn't really matter since he'll explode afterwards. Scud claims that he's freelancing now, so that's not really a problem, and the dude decides to bail. As the man walks away, he's almost crushed by a falling oversized microwave, before Scud swoops in and saves his life. The man then hires Scud to take out a guy who's in prison for blowing up the Don's daughter. Using equipment from his new employer, he scales the wall and then takes out the guard watching the security cam. Scud gets into position with a sniper rifle. With all the inmates out in the courtyard, he's able to locate his target. He takes a shot. The captain calls for troops to go after Scud as he tries to make his escape. The guards try to take on Scud, but he seems to be bulletproof, and he spears a guard with a sniper rifle. He closes them in a room with nerve gas and attempts to escape. More guards sit waiting to finish Scud, but he makes easy work of them. After taking out more guards, he jumps through the window, where the captain sees for the first time that the assassin is a Scud robot, and concludes that he must have another target that hasn't been killed, or else he would have blown up by now. Scud gets shot by the captain, and we learn that Scud is programmed to feel pain. He's attacked by guard dogs, which he also takes care of. Scud then gets shot through the hand, which causes him to go into extra murder mode. We see a seemingly less stable Scud staring at us before the issue ends. 3. On the Right Track. Part 2. The Kid with a 200 IQ. We have this issue suggested cast once more. We also have a disclaimer that any similarities between fictional and real-life characters is completely coincidental, unless it's funny or on purpose. We see the captain with the dying lieutenant, who tells him who the victim was, and the captain deduces that the mob sent Scud after the victim, but still can't figure out why he hasn't blown up yet. And now, the Scud unit has gone insane. We then see the Scud unit going insane. Scud goes on about being immortal as he's a robot, but takes a look at his hand. Now dressed like Jesus, Scud goes and takes over a giant mechanical robot. He then uses the suit to wreak even more havoc. He then heads to a semi-truck that he commandeers. The truck being fortified against lasers, the captain lets it go. Scud drives right off a cliff and makes his getaway. He finds himself in what he believes to be an abandoned campground. We learn that it is, in fact, inhabited by a group who worship someone named Hank Grit, and they shoot a rocket at Scud's truck. Scud kicks open the back of the trailer and emerges holding a giant machine gun, saying that he just wants to use a phone, but his programming will cause him to keep fighting when in danger. Alas, they don't relent, and many get blown to smithereens. A large man pounds Scud into the ground, and the leader of this gang tells Scud that Hank Grit is strong with him. It turns out, Hank Grit is a cowboy mascot of a restaurant on the campground, and they ask Scud to join him, but he's a bit hesitant. But after saying that they have lots of money, Scud agrees and asks to use a phone. Scud uses the phone to check on the monster, and then he calls the sponsor of his last job, Tony, to send his money to the hospital. Tony says the Don wants to see Scud as soon as he's back in town, and then Scud gets the lowdown of his next mission from Chuck, the Gritty's leader. The mission is to break their true leader out of prison, but the leader happens to be the now deceased target from the last mission. We cut to the captain of the guards with the lieutenant, who survived but is left with one arm, being told by the boss from the first issue, Mr. Spider-God, to bring in that Scud alive. And everyone is still oblivious to who Scud's initial target was, and assume he was gotten from the machine by the mob. We next see Scud with his new employers, wondering how he's going to get out of this. They get to the prison, and Chuck, the leader of the Gritties, starts hurling threats. The prison activates its defense measures and tells Chuck that their leader was killed by a Scud. With the cat out of the bag, Scud tries to dip, but a firefight ensues on the ship. Scud creatively kills the attackers and gets onto the exterior of the ship, where he's met by and then attacked by Chuck. Chuck has no interest in hearing Scud's explanation, and when attacking Scud, accidentally takes the ship down, being flung far, far away in the process. The ship comes down, hitting a weak point in the ground that's keeping the prison above a 12-mile drop as Scud flies away on an escape vessel. The surviving captain and lieutenant watch as Scud flies off into the sky and the issue ends. Number 4. The Kid from Left Field. Today's cast and an address where you can send your hate mail. We open the issue to see the Don executing a zombie cyborg that was supposedly sold to him by someone named Voodoo Ben. The whole thing was seen by Voodoo Ben on a security cam, and Voodoo Ben plans a strike back. Scud and Tony are at the tailor, where Scud gets a snazzy new suit for the meeting with the Don, and Tony chastises him for making such a scene at the job. Zombies then break through the store window and attack them. Tony deals with the zombies on him and then yells to Scud for help. While Scud deals with the zombie, he also hears the damage control someone from the company that makes Scud is doing on TV, saying that his model is going to be replaced, but until then, they're still perfectly safe. Scud then finishes off the rest of the zombies. We see at the hospital, the monster is still living, but hasn't moved in 3 months. Voodoo Ben gets the news about the failed operation, and we get a reveal of the man behind the mask. I cried laughing when I first saw this. It caught me so off guard. Scud plays pool as the Don thanks him for avenging his daughter. Outside, a zombie T-Rex falls from the sky and eats a guard. The rest of the guards try to take it down. While safely in a ship above, Ben notes that it'll be hard to shoot a brain the size of a pea. Chaos ensues, and they try to get the Don out as Ben sends in more zombie dino units. The zombie raptors intercept the Don and bite his arm. The Don gets saved by a guy named Doghouse, who then shouts to Scud for help, but Scud says that he has bills to pay, and he doesn't kill for free, so he needs payment. After looking at the massacre happening, they pony up. With the help of Scud, they push the dino onto the balcony using the pool table. After blasting it with a shotgun, Scud tackles it off the roof. Scud managed to get back on the balcony, but more dinos are coming, and he suggests that they rappel down the building. Having gotten the rope, Scud promises the Don that he'll save the men, since zombies don't eat robots. The Don stays in his office with guards and closed doors as the rest of the gang start to rappel down. A zombie Triceratops comes straight for them, and Scud kicks Tony out of the way and gets hit. Scud falls into a storage shed where he gets pretty dinged up. Back up in the office, the Don starts to turn. Using supplies from the shed, Scud lights himself on fire to ward off zombies and walks back to the building. The Don gets more hostile in his office, while the surviving crew finds some robot/mech suits that they'll use to get out. Scud makes his way back to the crew, and they all choose their robots. They suit up and head out. Meanwhile, back in the office, the Don gets worse. The meched up crew kick ass, but eventually get brick-walled. They then morph into a mega mech. They then use their new suit to kill a zombie dino. They're then informed that they just killed the Don, and are the only remaining survivors as the issue ends. That's the end of Collection 1, and we have a nice little cliffhanger there. So it looks like this will be the first video of probably about 6. The next 4 tackling 4 issues each, and then a final one that is going to be some of the other issues in the Scud universe. Now, if you like this, please pick up the series for yourself, and please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And while you're at it, leave a comment about what else you want me to talk about. Also, if you feel so inclined, check out the bi-weekly movie podcast that I do with my good friend Mike. Bye!